So I hate starting every time I edit. I'm like, so.
Less so's,
Yeah.
less ums. That'll be our good.
Ums. It's the podcast. Okay. Like,
No, that's my word.
I know. Sorry. I took your word. So let me go back to what I'm comfortable with. So. Welcome to the Marketing Team of One podcast, where we have conversations about the issues one-person marketing teams face when trying to meet their goals with limited time and budgets. Now here's your hosts, Eric and Mike. Mike, you're on the crying couch, but you don't seem like you're crying about anything. But I got a question for you. Since you seem like you're open to a question, probably. Yeah. I'm building a website. Client called me, and they just wanted to know, like, what should I build my website on? What platform? What's going to work the best? Well, I didn't mean for this to bring up
Eric. You can join the solid 10% of internet discussion boards asking that exact same question.
It's really that difficult? It's just a website, Mike. Come on.
It's just a website.
Yeah.
No. I so many thoughts about it, but I think there's so many people that they ask what platform they should build their website on with it, and sometimes it's more phrased it, should I build my website in Wix? Should I build my website in Squarespace? Should I build my website in WordPress? And I think it depends.
Oh,
and I think
I
don't know. I think maybe I've stayed above the fray. I've never contributed to this, and maybe if I had, maybe it wouldn't occupy 10% of the internet's discussion boards. Mm-hmm. Maybe if there was a reasonable voice out there talking about what you should be looking for, or guiding some of these people, if it gets to enough of the people, maybe that question doesn't get asked as much.
Nice. So I think we can look to you then as a guide for this. Can we?
Maybe. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I think there's a lot of. If someone came to me with that question, I would probably have 20 different questions I would ask them about to steer them towards a solution, because it's not. There is no, as much as WordPress has 87% of the website market. I may have exaggerated there a little bit.
That's good.
It might not be the best for everybody. It might not be best for the way that they work. Might not be the best way for their priorities and what they're trying to.
So then, what are those first questions that you ask to kind of help direct guidance around this platform question?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, one set would be, what is your skill set? Like, what are you good at? What are you coming to this website as? Do you know how to code? Do you know HTML?
So to almost back up just one level, am I building it or am I hiring it to be built and then I'm going to maintain it? So it's really a more...
Yes.
Okay.
And I kind of jumped over that, and I'm assuming that if you're asking that question, what platform should I use for my website, you're already thinking about building it yourself.
Okay.
Or using it all the time. So
fair enough.
But yeah, what skills do you bring to the website as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. Do you code? Do you design? Are you a writer? Neither of those things interest you. Those are different considerations, completely different things,
I guess then we need to go back to see so once you're comfortable with that decision of I'm building it, I'm writing it, wherever you fit into that, or doing it all, which that's a big undertaking.
A lot of people do it, that they do have to own the whole website.
Right.
And all the different parts of it.
Then you need to look at your organization and what you're building the website for and make the decision about what type of a website. What do you mean when you say what type of a website? There's
There's probably
websites.
in numerous categories. I couldn't cover all of them, but I think there's probably 4 or 5 basic types of sites. One, the simplest I would call it, is like a brochure site. When we talk about brochure sites, it's not updated very often. It probably has 10 pages or less that's really talking about a product or a service. You're not selling things directly from the website. It usually necessitates a call, or maybe it's not even overtly selling something, but it's providing information out to the public about something.
It's like proof of life.
Yeah. I don't know if you see as many of those. I mean, you still see them. There's still a purpose for those, but a brochure site would be one set of, you would approach a brochure site with one set of tools. Another one would be more like a content marketing site, right? Where you're using it to publish information on a regular basis with the goal of driving traffic to your website. And there's usually, and so that content marketing thing, you're usually adding in more information. You want to be collecting more information. You'd be hooking in, on the content marketing side, I think a lot of it, what you're really trying to do is build an email list or drive awareness towards your product through SEO and writing a lot. So
it's almost like one level up from brochure site. Next would be content marketing, where it's got a little bit more content in it, but it drives people to do something, interact at a little bit higher level.
Yeah,
of
there's
engagement.
a little bit more. There's more functionality. There's more features needed in that tool set to really effectively do the marketing that you're doing.
Might plug into
content.
a CRM or a content or a customer relationship management. Platform.
Or at a minimum, like connecting to a email marketing software. Or a lot of them are bundled together. I mean, that's a whole other thing too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think content marketing is one. You've got the e-commerce side of things. Are you selling things on your website? And then that's got some angles too. Like if you're selling one thing, that's, if you're selling one thing directly, your approach to building the website would be different than if you're selling, 20 to 2,000 products. You would want different platforms for that because they're different. I don't even think at that level, like with e-commerce, not all e-commerce is all the same. I think that there's different needs.
You get into a lot of complexities, things around inventory and change cycles within your product line. There's a lot of things that are variables within e-commerce.
Yep.
Amazon is e-commerce. That's the far end of the spectrum.
Totally.
Then you've got one Etsy site almost would be kind of the basic, like I'm selling this hat or this scarf.
Yeah. Or I'm selling this digital product that gets delivered when somebody pays, and I've only got one of them. You still need to transact and collect money. That's a layer that you need to keep in mind when choosing a platform as well.
Software could be delivered that way as well, downloadable solutions kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got brochure, content marketing, e-commerce.
I think another spin on, and it's probably similar to the content marketing side of things, is kind of like more like a public information thing where you're putting information primarily for the public to be consuming. I think we see this a lot with government agencies or public institutions where maybe they're funded by government funding or grants or something like that. They're not directly asking for money or selling a product to the end thing, but they have a very vested interest in making sure that their information is published for the public, for the public good, right? I would say is similar to the content marketing thing as far as the needs go, but just slightly, you might not have as much of a marketing spin. It's more of a publishing information approach to things.
So like broadcasting, how would you put maybe other media sites, news content, maybe publications that are online, those types, are they kind of fall in a similar category? Is that a different category?
That's a good question. I think it very similar. I think the key difference there, which isn't that much of a difference, but is the advertising angle, right? Like what you're talking about, like media companies and online magazines or something like that. In a lot of those instances, they're hoping to be funded by ad revenue and everything.
Yeah, you got paywall or you've got ads or both sometimes.
Or that hot mess that is called the recipe website.
Oh,
but we could do a whole episode on the tire fire that recipe websites are.
But that they fall in line with a lot of big publishing sites. I mean,
bad.
I was on one site the other day trying to navigate through it, and it was trying to avoid the ads and navigate to the actual words and the content of it. It was like playing a video game. You're like chasing and you're hitting, and
the world's worst video game.
And then you just end up throwing your phone. So you got to factor in the cost of phones that you throw at a wall.
Well, right. You had on LinkedIn, you were railing against
Inc. magazine.
Inc. magazine, something that was very a reputable magazine.
Been a fan since I've read Inc. magazine for decades. Love it. Yeah,
but their website has become a tire fire.
Yeah. I guess they're big enough we can pick on them and name them specifically. I'm comfortable with
it. They're not unique.
No, they do.
That's the big point of this whole thing, right?
That's exactly
like that. They're trying to monetize it. They can't sell printed ones as much as at the scale they used to, right?
Yeah.
And they got to try and figure out how to fund this journalism, which is important, but man, I think you're being so hostile to the people who are actually interested in reading your stuff.
Yeah.
You really turn them away.
And I feel bad for them because I know that's been a struggle now for 15 years with all publication news sites are just rampant. They're all like that. I mean, it's really hard to find a good one.
And I don't know if it's going to get any better, unfortunately, like with Google's AI plans and, summarizing things and it like pushing all these actual like listed websites even further down. That's the main way that a lot of people find those websites. And so I don't know if it's going to get any better. I don't know. I think it's sad.
I'd love to see the ROI on ad spends on those platforms. I mean, are companies comfortable with spending money to support that sort of a structure? I know that's probably another topic we could get into for another time, but there must be some return on that, or it's cheap enough to where they can just blast millions of ads over those platforms fairly easily, fairly cost effectively, and there's a payoff somewhere.
Or maybe not. Like, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people that are really hurting and they're trying to throw, that's why there's pop-up covered by a video, auto-playing video, by the way, that takes up a third of the screen. And you dismiss one pop-up and then you're scrolling through and there's 40 words and then there's another ad and there's another 40 words and another ad.
Or there's a pop-up that shows up on the mobile, like 4 scrolls down that you don't even know is there, but the whole site's grayed out, and you're like, wait, why?
Yeah.
Oh, there. I have to click no thanks or whatever.
This was such a big diversion, but it's something that is...
It's like therapy, That's why
it is. We've worked through it.
We've gone over the 4 basic categories of websites that are out there. Let's go back to now the marketing team of one person is now pretty much decided what they're going to do. What's the next stages of that? What do they have to start thinking about? How would they go about starting the process of building a website?
I think there's a lot of like really figuring out where is your bread buttered? Like what skills are you bringing to the table and everything? Like, are you a designer? You're probably going to be a little bit more picky about the look and feel of things. You might want to have a little bit more control of things, right? So that would help dictate what you're looking for in a platform. Do I have the flexibility to kind of impart my design will on this, right?
Heavy design, heavy visuals.
Yep.
Okay.
Am I a coder? Like, do I know how to get in there and kind of like customize some things to fit my more functional / maybe more utilitarian approach to things?
Building a tool or something like that.
Yeah.
Building something inside of a platform that enables people to do work or okay.
Yep. Am I a writer? Do I just need to like write things and I don't want to deal with I don't have the skill to build these things out and either from a functional side or a design side. I just want to have a place to write things and put it in and move on to the next writing assignment. So all of those different things like it would affect your decision making on which platform you're using. I guess the last thing is, are you doing it all yourself? Do you have help in one of these other complementary skills to kind of build something up? Is there budget to find somebody outside who can help with some of those things too?
When you're starting to design a website, I say design a website, but the build is a big part of it. I'm looking at it from a traditional print perspective in the sense of we design cool things and then we get them printed. And those are two separate jobs within a job in a sense. And I look at websites the same way. So I can just start doodling and I'm designing my website, right? Is that how I approach? Is that how you begin your approach when you're designing or building a website?
No, not yet.
Why not?
I think an important step in there is really, it comes down to the same stuff that we talk about in marketing, that we talk about in user experience work, branding work and everything. We have to really, if we're starting from scratch, we have to have a really good idea of who we're building this for, who we're designing this for.
Who's your audience?
Who's your audience?
Gotcha.
I want to get as quickly as possible to what you're talking about, but I think I have to realize where's the overlap between what my audience needs and what the business needs. And then where's that overlap? And keep that in mind through all of the design decisions. And the design decisions, when I say design, I'm not talking like graphic design and typefaces and colors and everything like that. I'm talking the architecture of what you're creating.
There's a concept called user flow. Does that sound like a right? Am I making this up, or is this?
No, I mean that's a common thing in user experience. Put yourself in the shoes of the user of the website, and you want to figure out how they are going to experience this website. And a lot of times, it's in their pursuit of getting something done. Like, what is the goal that they're trying to reach with this? That's a big research component, and trying to figure out what are their needs, what do they come
what
across.
Gets complex is the fact that there's multiple needs, because a website has to do all of the different steps along the journey to getting a purchase or getting a contract or whatever the desired result is. Sometimes they're just kicking tires or just doing research or just kind of looking around. Then they have to satisfy, I've made a decision. Now I need to either contact somebody or I need to actually put something in a cart and then follow them through that process. So that's where website design or engineering or UX, right? That's UX. Comes into the difficult things, because you've got a lot of combined requirements that sometimes are contrarian.
I think you should almost always be steering towards the user's side of things. What ultimately is going to help the person who's using this website? And don't let your business requirements or your business needs or what the CEO thinks is important get in the way of who's using that website.
Looking at intent, make their lives better by solving this issue.
You've decided to build this website, and let's say you have to do it all yourself. What I like to do is look at websites that might have shared goals of the people using the website. And if you can find maybe bigger companies who have invested in big user experience teams to do the research, to test. If you can steal some of those ideas there, Airbnb has been known for a long time to like invest a ton of money in their design team, their user experience team, their design teams and everything. They've tested so many different iterations of how people go through the website to book a rental, right? Like if I have a similar company and I want to build a website that does the same thing, I would be looking all over the place like, hey, look what they did here. Look what they did here. They've invested probably millions of dollars, many tests to get to this thing that's working for them. I think a really effective way before you get into that sketching things out and everything is to do a little research and find some of those, like, again, not competitors in your market or something like that, but like, what's the goal? Going back to the type of website it is, right? Like, is the goal of this website to grow an email list or grow a community? Okay. But like, look at some of the things they're doing with their website to try and generate and build that email list.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that, and that's a really great thing to start with, to look for those. One interesting twist on that might be, like you just suggested, maybe look a little bit more adjacent to that space and see how others in maybe slightly different industries or verticals are doing similar things, which might look or feel very different and might be a refreshing perspective to bring into your space for that.
It's about research and starting with a little bit of research before you really start like planning this all out. And none of the how it's built has come into play yet, right? There's a lot of work that you can do before you even figure out what platform you're using.
When you're starting a website project, let's hope you have a brand established that has some of these visual guidelines or directives that you can pull from to kind of help inform the look and feel of it a little bit. You've done some research around UI, UX, what user flows are working, what magical combination of user flows have you decided to incorporate into this site? Do you then start writing it? Do you start drawing pictures? Is it a combination of all that stuff? Is there wireframes? I mean, what's the process to really launch this rocket ship?
This is when we can start sketching things out, I think is really helpful. And I think having a notebook or even just having a big piece of paper and doing when we talk about wireframes, a lot of times we're talking about like these you're generating pixels on a screen like in Figma or something like that, and you're putting all these things together. I think a step before that is just sketching it out by hand and taking the things you've learned and mapping out, okay, how many pages, what information do I need to convey? Listing those out and then doing like little things. And I think we like back in design school, they tell you like, if you're doing a layout, draw these tiny little versions of a magazine and you figure out, okay, this is going to go here, this is going to go here. And it's truly a little thumbnail. You're drawing a little thumbnail of those things. And if you can do that with the pages of your website, you're providing a little bit more clarity, but you're also providing a lot more thinking about what should go into each one of these pages.
Big picture stuff.
Big picture first. And how these pieces kind of come together.
It sounds like at this point we need to look at your skill set, go back to that. What are your strengths? Are you looking for cool flexibility or are you looking for stability? Do those two things live at odds sometimes? Is it a hard...
I think so. I think if you go back to like what skills you bring to it, right? And let's say a designer most of the time, if they're looking for a platform, they're probably looking for something where they can fulfill their vision in it, which means that you need something that's flexible and you're not feeling constrained by the platform. With a writer who acknowledges that maybe they're not strong in design, they don't want to do anything to mess up the design if they care about the design of things, right? They don't want that flexibility. They probably want, there's healthy constraints there that I know I can focus on what I'm good at, and then I know the output's going to be really nice, right?
Yep.
And then you've got the code side of things, like if you like to mess with functionality and improve functionality, do you have the ability to easily get in there and it's kind of a hybrid of the both, right? Because you want some consistency long term. You don't want to mess things up, but you want to know that you can make this your own. You want some flexibility there. So the skill that you bring to the project or what you're doing informs your decision on what you should be choosing in a platform.
Could you outline quickly what stable means, stability? I know that that's a whole thing, but I mean, websites are different than a printed brochure.
Yep.
Printed brochures, you print them, they don't change. A brochure website, even though you have done nothing overtly over the course of the last 5 years, may not even work anymore because of other changes outside your control. Talk about what's the most stable and what's the least stable, or what, if there is.
So I mean, the most stable website that you could build out there would be something where you can, this hot take here, if you could write everything in HTML all your own and publish it in a way, and you just put it up and out there, like there's no dependencies on putting that out there. It's the way the web was built for a long, long time, is just people creating these HTML pages, putting it up there.
It's carving it just straight out of code, just out there whittling on the porch.
Stability is a funny word because I think there's different interpretations of it. Like when you say stable, there's not going to be a whole bunch of unexpected changes or issues with it. Right. And that could be in multiple forms. Going back to the writing example, I want to focus on writing a couple different things, writing a page for this. I want to know that when I hit publish, it goes out there. I have no issues. Everything's nice and clean, right? I think when you start dealing with design changes and flexibility of like being able to change things, I think that can break down the stability. And you know that the more you're changing things, the more you're trying to bend things to your own will, unless you're really, really good at checking all the boxes and being very thorough on things, I think that stuff can undermine the stability. And so I think you have to realize where you are on that spectrum, because I think stability is way over here and flexibility, ultimate flexibility, is way over here. And I don't know if they can exist, and everyone's going to have a different middle ground on here.
Yeah,
but I don't think they can exist. You can't have ultimate flexibility and stability without a big team of people.
I was just going to say that it's going to take somebody squarely focused on stability. If you build in a lot of complexity that has a lot of flexibility in the design side of things, my mind goes to WordPress sites immediately, because at this point, WordPress sites are built upon plugin, upon plugin, upon plugin, and there is no stability with that, because it's a challenging environment that has multiple players that are changing things all the time, and they're not always coordinated. And your special mix of plugins is completely different than any other person's on earth, probably. There's a very good chance of that.
If you're looking for something that's ultimately very flexible and stable, I think that's where you end up you get into the very specialized skills across everything. I think you're talking about UX and UI designers who are very skilled at the layout and creating that flexible design, or implementing a new design and handing that to developers who are very skilled at building something that is not going to break and that can be implemented into the system. And I think it's rare to have people who can possess all those skills.
Plus, you add in complexity levels, which is different for everybody. And that just throws the whole equation off. The more complexity, the less stable it is.
Programmers call it technical debt. There's like, how many things have you thrown into this that you have to keep on top of and manage? And you want to manage that debt just like personal debt. You want to make sure that you're not too deep with a lot of those technical things that you've thrown in there. So,
even stuff like image sizes and things like that could be technical debt in a sense, right?
Yeah, a lot of those are easier to overcome. Going back to the flexibility side of things, if you have a system that's flexible enough for you to throw a 12 meg image in there without any constraints, that could end up being part of your website. And then you'll get complaints from people saying, well, why is your website so?
We're getting close now to a decision around this platform, but what's one of the last things we need to think about? How are you going to approach the build and the design of this website? I
think it's really important to think about the different like architecture types that you would, of how you would build a website. And when I say architecture types, the most basic website is what I would call like a page-based website. You design a page, you design another page, you link those two together, and every time you are adding to the website, you're adding a new page, working on that page. And there's a ton of websites out there that are built that way. And you could technically build a 100-page website that way, or 1,000-page website.
One page at a time.
One page at a time. Those are great because each one can be its own snowflake. You have going back to the flexibility side of things. You're not hemmed in by any other decisions. You can create that page. You can have I don't know why you'd want to, but you can have a completely different navigation structure. You can have a completely different layout. You could put
some ideas now.
There's this page-based metaphor, and there are very complicated systems out there and platforms out there that are still kind of built around this idea of a page-based thing. They're trying to, as maybe a writer, the ability to write the information for that page and not worry about design decisions or anything. And you know that you're creating things, maybe you're rearranging some of the blocks within that page, but you write it and you publish it, and it magically appears as a page, but it's still just a page. Another common way is what I would call a more database-centric way of building a website. And so in that database-centric way, you're creating structured content in a way that can be saved in a database and then pulled out of that database in more than just a page-based way. I think most blogs are what I would consider in that database way, right? So what you've done is you've created a very structured format for entering information into the database. So you've got your blog title, you've got your blog description, you might have another field for a blog summary, and you save all that into the database. And then when you're building your website, you're not so much building pages, you're building templates that display that information.
Almost like a window frame. Like I built this window frame that now pulls the content and pushes the content that you've structured within the database through these different parts of this frame, in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the scale of your website and how big, when you go back to like what is the purpose of your website? Is it a brochure site? Is it for public information? You have to consider maintainability in a lot of these things, right? So like going back to this nightmare scenario of 1,000 pages that are all built as one-offs, right?
Yep.
Inevitably, there's going to be shared information. Can you imagine if you had to make a change, a simple change? Maybe you wanted to update the year of what this is in a common thing that's across many of these pages. You'd have to go in and edit every one of those pages. So let's say you had the one thing on those 1,000 pages, you'd have to make 1,000 edits for one simple changing of the year. That's where the maintainability thing comes into play, right? So going back to the blog example, right? So a common thing would be that you might have a homepage that displays your blogs, right? You probably have like a category-based page where it lists out like, hey, these are all my recipes, and then all of the recipes show up on that one page.
Yeah, I did say recipes. Why? It just hurts.
Just trying to connect back to.
Oh yeah, okay. Thank you.
If you make a change in that database system and you've got these templates that display, you can go into the original post, change the date, and everywhere that the templates have been created to show that, it will automatically update. So having a platform that allows you to make a change once and it automatically updates and everywhere that's shown is a huge asset if you have to manage a lot of pages or you're managing a lot of content.
Would you put an e-commerce site in that kind of
e-commerce
platform?
E-commerce is definitely a more database dependent thing, right? You're adding in almost at your core, something like with Shopify and everything, you're managing products almost exclusively. You're putting a product in there. You've got a product title, you've got price, you got the variations of that product, you've got a description, images, all that stuff goes into one good looking form that you manage there. And then they have templates on the side that the users see that display that information in different ways. I think it's really important to think about the constraints of those things when you're choosing a platform, right? Like for a brochure site, in a lot of cases, that database mindset is counterproductive, and you have to jump through a lot of hurdles to try and like you're overcomplicating things. If you've got 10 pages, it might just be better to manage those 10 pages as separate pages. You can update it. The burden of keeping things up to date isn't huge.
Right. And so, the stability of it is also increased a lot.
Correct.
You're not relying on other things to keep that alive.
Yeah. If I'm talking about the page-based structure and a database structure, really most websites nowadays don't live in one camp or the other. There's usually a hybrid there. Sometimes common homepage layouts are a good example of this hybrid, right? Like on your homepage, you want to have some information that is unique. Let's say you're highlighting you have this new feature that you want to highlight, and you're dedicating a section of your hero on the homepage, the top of the page, to that, and you want the flexibility to change that often. So you want to make sure that you can update that in a way that it's almost like what you see is what you get. It would be a good way of like editing that type of thing. But then you might have some more feature copy underneath that. But inevitably, if you're like running a blog on your site as like a content marketing thing, you don't want to manage those things as a page-based thing. You want to have a placeholder there that can feed information from the database.
More dynamic.
Make it dynamic. So when those things are updated, automatically it updates the homepage.
Nice.
Let's say you put on events and you want to have a listing of events, right? You probably have an events page that shows all the different events that are coming up. But on your homepage, you might want to highlight, hey, our next upcoming event. You want to be able to pull that out in there and not have to manage that individually.
Can I go back to the word hero? I just want to clarify that one time, because I did recently run into a situation where that did confuse somebody when we said hero image. You want to explain what that means?
So if we're talking about web page anatomy, let's say, right? There's a lot of people use a lot of terms interchangeably. Most of the time when you talk about a hero, sometimes it's called a header. It's that information that, I'm using another industry term, above the fold, right? Like back in newspaper times, they would be folded in half, right? All the important stuff would be above where the fold is. They'd try and make sure the big headlines are above the fold. On the web side of things, we do the same thing, right? We want to make sure, but above the fold is where the viewport ends for the screen. So most of the time you want to have your hero or header section is the first thing that people see right underneath the main navigation, is that hero section. And usually you're writing copy to either announce a brand new feature or product, or you're selling the main benefits of your company or the product. If it's a product page, you're talking about one of the biggest benefits that people will see from it.
Probably the most general question that user's coming to the site for, hopefully.
Ideally, it's hooking people in to be able to want to consume more of that, to either scroll further down the page to find out more, or if it's that hero section on the homepage, that it's driving them to a deeper page where they can find out more.
Side note, if you're going to spend money on imagery, that's where you want to invest it, is on that hero image, whatever that means. If it's a photo or you want to make that the best looking thing you've got.
Yeah.
That's the first impression.
Yep. I think a lot of people, when they start building websites, they're thinking a lot about this page-based thing, because I think it's an easier connection. Like when I first started building websites, it was very clear to me that, okay, I build this page and I link it to this page and I link it to this page, and they all link together, and everything. I treat all of these as one-offs, right? And I think in WordPress, that especially with people who've built a WordPress site and they've added on something like Elementor or something like that, a lot of that is this page-based idea that you're building this page and this page and this page. It's not taking advantage of some of the inherent database structure things that WordPress was built on. And so that's where, like, if you're just building a brochure site with WordPress and you're only building like 5 pages in Elementor, you're maintaining a whole undercurrent of things that you're not even using. And there's the back to the technical debt thing. Like there's all these things that are happening underneath there, and you're really not even really making use of them. So if you're taking that page-based approach and you're building it on a system that is heavily database dependent, that might not be a great fit.
Those 3 elements all work together in a very complicated formula to end up with your ideal answer of what is the platform that you're going to choose to build on.
Yep. It's
just a mishmash combination. What's most important to you? What's your skill set? What's the purpose of the site? I think too, when we talk about brochure sites, that's something that in most of our conversations, we really do try to talk people into having their websites convert or do something.
They can do so much more. Like there's a huge missed opportunity if you're just thinking of putting a website up there for validation or for proof that you exist, which is really what a lot of those brochure websites are doing. I have a much easier time of having conversations with people who say this is what we need if they've built a case that this is what's best for our users because this is the way they use it. I think we have to come back to like, what's your mentality? What's your skill set? What are you bringing to the table? What do you value most? So like, let's go back to, I'm a writer. I want to make sure that the website works all the time, that it looks good all the time. You're going to be better off trying to find a more database dependent website where you can enter information in that has good looking templates that have been designed by others, or you've hired someone to design that system and you don't have to worry about any of that. You're going to be fine because all of the content that you're creating is being fed through those templates. That you're going to have some stability through those templates and everything. Whereas if you're a designer and you're not on board with structuring your data in a consistent way or anything, that database-driven way will drive you crazy. You're probably going to want something that's a little bit more page-based. A great example is like Drupal is a very, very popular platform out there. What they've always done really well is this idea of structured data, saving information into a database and everything. As a designer, it was maddening to me of how to, even though I embraced the idea of putting everything into a database and trying to pull stuff out, as a designer who wanted flexibility and control over things, it was very cumbersome. You had to figure out how to code things. It was not a great situation. You had flexibility to create whatever data and database structures you wanted and put information into a website, but there wasn't design flexibility.
Yeah, because at its base, Drupal's extremely stable. It's a pretty decent platform, or not?
I don't. It has a lot of the same underpinnings in structure that WordPress does. It's open source. You have a bunch of contributors adding new functionality that you can add to that site and add into the mix of things. So you have to be aware of it and and be able to update that. Drupal's huge in government and public information, like large organizations where they can have IT teams that can manage those things, or it's not great for a solopreneur. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Drupal,
it's not great for a solo marketer.
Takes tons of data and helps present that in a gigantic structured website.
If you've got one of those like public information websites and you're trying to feed a lot of information out to the public, it's ideal for that.
Is like, let's talk about like publication or newspaper, magazine type online. Is that structured in a database way as well? Because you're pumping out information sometimes minute by minute, hour by hour.
Yeah.
You can't sit and design each page. You've got to just drop it in this box in this database and boom.
Well, there's a number of platforms that are used there, but in most of those cases, especially the bigger media companies, they've got design teams who are doing the user experience work. They're designing not just templates, but a whole design system that they can create those templates, feed the information from the database to populate all those pages, and they have different templates to be able to choose what shows on those pages, what information from the database is shown on those pages.
Interesting. There's algorithms that suggest and read this next, and there's a
lot of that stuff is like
complicated.
Yeah, totally.
The thing that sometimes doesn't get considered, but the final thing that you really need to consider is what's the life of this website? What's it going to look like? The next few months, you build the website, you get it all built, launched, everything's great, everybody's happy. The real important parts come in 2 years from now, 4 years from now. What does that look like? How much do they need to consider that?
Well, I think an important thing is how often are you going to be updating the site? How often do you need to manage it? Almost all websites, except that brochure site that we're talking about, for the most part, need some care and feeding. You also have to be aware of how much time can I dedicate to maintaining this platform. You could pick a more obscure platform because you think that it checks all the boxes, and maybe you're a big fan of open source software and it's a more obscure type platform that you could build your website on. That might be a great short-term solution, but you know what? Like, there's been some of these like niche open source things that the people who've been running them are tire of it. It's a labor of love. Then the love ends up being lost, and then you're left having to spend so much more time maintaining it and feeding it and patching it because you don't have anybody else helping you with that. I did that a long time ago. I put my eggs in a basket of a open source thing that checked a lot of boxes. And then as things scaled and as you become aware of more things out there, you realize that, maybe this isn't the best long-term thing. There's a big case to be made for supporting open source and being a part of open source software. But I think when you're a small team and it's probably better to maybe invest a little bit more money in a platform that you can, yes, you're going to have to pay for it, but that payment, along with a bunch of others, is helping ensure the more long-term viability of that platform. It's not just going to like disappear overnight, or it's not tied up in the whims of one or two people.
Yeah. Longevity is definitely going to be the consideration on that stuff, because 2 years can go by in a snap. And then all of a sudden something major might have happened and you're left, now we got to redo the site again, or we got to rebuild everything or move it to a different host or whatever it is.
And then I think you kind of touched on another thing that we talked about, that like flexibility, stability thing.
Yeah.
You have to think about, if you're choosing a platform, the long-term flexibility of this thing. Like if you come into it as, let's say, this writer I keep talking about, where you're just putting stuff into the database and the front end of the website where the users are viewing. If you don't have any flexibility on that website's going to feel really out of date, 2-3 years down the road. And then you're going to have to go through everyone's favorite thing, building a brand new website and going through all the things. If you can go into it knowing that you've got a website that's flexible and can be maintained or improved in spots, you're going to be better off in the long run too. And most of those flexible systems go more towards the database driven thing, because you can, if you can separate out, which is another thing I didn't really talk about much, but if you can separate out the presentation of the content and the content itself, it's going to be better in the long run, because you can change templates, you can change themes, and you don't have to go into every single one of those posts or pages. You can do a refresh of the whole website. Don't know if we've solved the question of what platform should you use.
What platform should I use, Mike?
That's why 10% of the internet is filled, or discussion boards on the internet is filled with this question, because it's complex, it's deep. I think you can, if you ask yourself a lot of questions about what you want out of the website, what you're looking to do, what do your users need, what's your long-term visibility and long-term expectations for this thing, it can help you get closer to a solution. But at the end of every one of those roads, there's probably 10 platforms that are saying, hey, pick me. And then you got 10 over there and 10 over there. Pick me.
It's a hard thing to just come up with even 5 names. And we could name a bunch, but it's really, that wouldn't be relevant. It really makes it, you really do have to do your own homework around all those different factors to get to that answer.
And I think of those 10 that are at the end of each one of those roads, there's probably a reason WordPress is probably in those of all of them, because of all the ecosystem of things that you can go through those decision trees, and you could, WordPress has been used for millions of brochure sites.
Yeah.
It's been used for many content marketing sites, many. You add WooCommerce to it, and it's a new e-commerce
surprise
store.
Yeah.
Used for public information sites all the time. It's used for it can be used for all these things. And so it almost sounds like I'm endorsing it for all these things.
Yes.
I don't know that I am,
right?
But there's a reason why.
Well, and I think you can endorse a sliver of the audience that might use it for this one thing that isn't built on a lot of complexities. At its core, WordPress is probably a really great platform for a very simple type website. It was originally a blog publishing website, correct?
Yeah, I think we have a whole episode where I talk about how I'm done with it.
Check it out.
Done. But and reasons why I don't know if it's the best for a lot of those things. It using the word simple for WordPress nowadays is not, they don't equate at all. It's not. I don't know if there is a simple website platform. If you're looking for a simple website platform, you've decided what you're looking for in the simplicity of it. And there are other things that may not be important to you that are not included in that. So like, I think Squarespace is one that's very, very popular. They've taken a lot of the design flexibility away from people. So if you remove that design flexibility, it is simple.
And
it is a simple website
and
builder.
Stable, probably a little bit more stable. They probably did that, sacrifice the design to get to the stable.
If you're a coder, it's probably not a fun thing to do. But if you are a writer and you want to build more on it, in this case, this is one of those more like page by page type structures. Perfect. It could be a great platform for you. I'm not going to endorse one product over another, because it can't, like, I think you have to go through the decision trees to figure out what's important to you.
Yeah, you've merely just highlighted best of breed in a sense, or top of the market, or whatever. You're just identifying the big players. By no means are you endorsing.
I mean, and I guess the last thing is I could say that where we've landed with the sites that we typically do all the time, we found that Webflow is a good hybrid of those things. We run a design firm. We want design flexibility. We often have people who want to have some content marketing type entries into that. Webflow has this kind of hybrid approach where you can design and build. You have ultimate design flexibility to build out some of these pages, but they have this CMS component on the other side where you can create this structure and integrate it with the page-based structure to create a more flexible website. And for our needs, it's been fantastic. A coder would hate it.
You can't get in and monkey around with it.
You can, but it's like it's probably there's a lot of like hurdles to doing that. I think if you like code,
you're going to make a different choice.
You're going to go somewhere else.
All right. Well, I think this has been a complete waste of time. Thank you, Mike. Have no actual answers on. You said nothing. You didn't give me a name. What I have learned is that I need to go back and consider a lot of the things that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You've just reviewed them for us again. So that's really the answer to this question is go back, come up with those individualized answers for all those questions. And that will provide the guidance to get you to the right platform.
Yeah. I realize I may not have helped you to get to an actual solution, right?
Yep.
You do feel like maybe you have to do the work.
I know.
But if I see that you've posted on Reddit, what platform should I use for this website? I'm coming after you.
Thank you for the warning. I appreciate it.
Torches, pitchforks, do the work. You can make more informed questions out of that, and people will be able to help you a lot more.
That makes a lot of sense. Very helpful, Mike. I appreciate it. On that note, let's finish the podcast. Thank you so much. Good information. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information and other episodes, subscribe to the Marketing Team of One podcast on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify podcast networks. You can also chat with us on the r/Marketing Team of One subreddit or visit marketingteamofone.com to learn more.